Hello everybody and welcome to VFR. Today we are here on the ground at KJFK, the Big Apple, New York. And we're going to be heading up to Boston in our United DC-6 mainliner. So welcome aboard. We got a cold and dark airplane here. We're jumping back into the DC-6, an airplane that I don't know when the last time we flew it on channel was, but definitely one of my favorites. Definitely a really fun plane to fly. So welcome aboard. Now, before we really do anything, we need to talk about our flight plan. So we're going to fly this first part offline. So, I did one quick get up to speed flight before this. But yeah, to start out, we're going to start offline, and then we're going to jump into whatever else. We may go VATSIM for a second leg. We'll see. It's not a particularly long flight. Should take us about an hour to do. So potential for doing another leg if it goes well. All right, so let's get SkyVector going, because this is where we're going to start, basically, because that's going to be a big part of our flight plan for today. So we are flying out of JFK, New York here, kind of on the east side of the city, here on Long Island. We're going to basically take off. Wind was favoring 3-1, runway 3-1 earlier. We'll see now. We'll basically take off, and we're going to fly these VORs basically up the coast and out to Boston. Again, should take about a 47-minute flight time today. And then we'll see how that goes. So thanks for coming along with us on this Thursday night flight. Let's go ahead and get the boys up and ready to roll. I also need to make sure that I set up everything right. We're going to go with the classic, no GPS today. Yeah, all that is good.
Oil coolers and cow flaps. Hold tight position. Fuel and fluids. Checked. Pressurization. Set. Manifold and duct pressure. Checked.
Alright, so they're running through this. We're going to be basically a pretty full airplane today. 68 passengers and some cargo.
Checked.
And it would be an opportune time
Doors and hatches.
to go ahead and get these charts up. So KJFK. And we're not flying any particular departure
Closed.
today. If anything, we would be going out on the Kennedy
Gear pins.
5, most likely.
Three on board. Seat belts and pedals.
But let's pull this up. So,
Throttles.
the airport today, we are, I believe,
Set to idle.
we're going to be, if we rotate clockwise, down here
Forward and
on this this part of the airport. Again, weather earlier today was favoring 3-1, the 3-1s, so we took off 3-1 left, but you could do it either way. And then, so let's get our weather from SimToolkit Pro, and then we'll start our engines up. Flight planning, we'll just do the bare bones here. JFK to KBOS. And that's fine. We'll be in a DC-6. This calls up SimBrief, but I don't really need the SimBrief routings. It's not going to be right for us. But what we can do is pull up our... I also like to print off the Nav Log for this one here. You have to sign in for it. But if we go... Okay. We'll fly that now. Connect. And we'll pull the interwebs back up. So we'll pull up this nav log for our journey today. That should be more than enough. It's got the frequencies we need and then all the radials that we'll be tracking in and out. So we'll go to HTO 113.6. And then we will go to SEY, which again will be just kind of following Long Island out if we would need to do it visually. So that'll be the Hampton, then to Sandy Point, then to Martha's Vineyard. We'll overfly Martha's Vineyard before we turn north to Boston. And we'll be tracking 088 for 69 nautical miles. So 088, and that's on 113.6. Then 079. Outbound just for 40 to 117.8. And we'll just lay that all out to start with, just so we are prepared to program all that stuff in. All right, so they're waiting on me. They're looking impatiently. I have been having a weird bug where my views don't jump around super nicely, so you maybe have to bear with me. Up to the overhead panel, usual flow boost pumps. We got number 3 in low engine selector is on 3. We'll have to turn both magnetos on engine 3 on and come down here and verify that we do in fact have fuel pressure. We do. We'll go ahead and start this engine.
3, 6, 9, 12.
Boost, prime. Oh, I'm gonna miss it. It looks like we caught it. Okay. Engine 3. We've got life. Jiggle the throttles just to make sure we're somewhat in idle. All right. Back up to the top, we'll get configured engine 4. Boost pump to low, selector to 4. Magnetos to both. Verify that we have fuel pressure. We do. And hit the button.
3, 6, 9, 12.
Boost prime. See, this is what's going on. It's a little weird. It's just bouncing between the views, not going directly to it, which interrupts the flow a little bit. So that's a not good start on engine 4. Let's take it back out and restart it. So thanks for all coming along tonight as we take a quick trip. Again, we are going to fly offline for this one, and then if we're feeling real confident, we can try planning through VATSIM. VATSIM is just going to be a different, it's just going to be a different beast for the flight planning. But it looks like we've got coverage. So if we still have coverage later, we may try it.
3, 6, 9, 12.
Boost prime. If I can grab it. Put some fuel in. And it looks like we got engine 4. Low, engine 2. We can go to both. And once it clicks in, we'll hit fire.
3, 6, 9, 12.
That's boost, prime. Give it some mixture. All right, so we're what, batting 750 right now on engine starts. So let's go ahead and finish this thing off. 1, low, both. It isn't rocket science.
3, 6, 9,
Boost, prime. Give it some fuel. And we are here. And we're a little close to the stand, but that's forgivable for us for now. We will connect our invisible tug and get situated.
selected boost pumps.
After start checklist now, as we get ready to fly on out.
And off.
The boys are going to work on that while we start thinking about our radios. Radios are on. we're just going to push straight back.
Ground power.
So our first VOR is going to be 113.6
After start checks complete.
for Hamptons, and then 117.8 for Sandy Hook. And then we'll plug the second one in here, 117.8. All right, and that'll work for us. Dismiss the tug. We're just about set. So, getting ready to taxi here. Let's figure out what the weather is in New York, New York. JFK. We've got visibility 10 surface miles, few clouds at 25,000 feet. Altimeter 3027. So let's get 30.27. Wind 300 at 28. So pretty strong wind, 300. It was like that earlier as well. So 300, if we go back to our trusty EFB, 300 gives us the 3-1s. 3-1 right or 3-1 left. 3-1's left is longer. It'll be what you're doing most of your jet takeoffs on. But, so we'll taxi on down to 3-1 left. We are kind of at that side of the airport. We are over here somewhere. So 3-1, we'll say 3-1 left. Nice thing about this old airplane is I don't have to tell anyone that. And let's see. So the last thing to program in that I sometimes forget is the radials that we're going to be flying to start out. So we're going to start out at, I wrote it down, 088. Remember, here it is, 0369 and a little less. 88. All right, cool. So we're just about ready to taxi. And the other thing that I like to do when I'm getting ready for if we're getting ready for a VATSIM flight, which we kind of are here, just going through the motions, practicing all elements of that flight. What are you actually going to say to people when you're going to say it? So just running through it in your head. I mean, ATC of all things is pretty, it's not, ATC, what they're going to say shouldn't really be a huge secret. They say the same things every time. It's not a huge surprise. So we're ready for taxi here. We're in a DC-6, and that doesn't change a whole heck of a lot. At this point, we would have our clearance to take off, and we would say something like Kennedy ground, United 210, ready to taxi. And they're going to tell us, I don't know. We're over at HB, so we pull up some Toolkit Pro, cheating on my map. We're here. They would probably tell us to taxi 3-1 left via Alpha, Juliet, Zulu. Cross runway 4. So yeah, you'd probably hear something along the lines of United 210, taxi runway 3-1 left via Alpha, Juliet, Zulu, cross runway 4. So we'll roll with that for now. And get on our way. So the other last thing, which way are we going to go? We are going to go out to the left. So just give it a little bit of power, shake this thing to its core, and we'll get on our way. Brakes off. And away we go. So Alpha will just basically taxi on out this smaller ramp taxiway to Alpha. That'll be a right-hand turn here onto the main taxiway. And because this is a custom scenery, it should be marked so there's the Alpha pointing both ways. So we're going to turn right on Alpha here. Look left, look right. And then after that, there will be a left-hand turn on to Juliet. It should be right up here at this junction. So Juliet is going to be this way, and there's runway 4. And we've been told to cross runway 4. So as we are doing this, before takeoff can be run.
Boost pumps on low.
And again, I'm unashamedly using the AFE.
Main tanks and crossfeed off.
Because I want to fly today. I don't have the whole big procedure in front of me.
Hydraulic system. Down.
And that's part of the thing that holds me back from flying this plane more, is just it can be a little intimidating. It's a plane,
20.
and we'll talk a little bit more about this in the cruise, but it's a plane that I sometimes feel more intimidated to fly than is actually helpful to make me want to fly it. So
Set 20. Windows and turbine.
we're going to stop worrying and like the AFE, and we're going to do our level best to get this to the ground without breaking anything.
Control.
Alright, so we're on Juliet now. We're going to make a right-hand turn to Zulu and get ready.
3. Potato. On. Mixture
And here they have three taxiways, basically so they can line you up for your departure onto 3-1 left.
on. Landing lights.
All right.
Extended and on. Before takeoff checks complete.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, and in true to form, we'd be on tower frequency now, so you'd tune that in, hit the button. Kennedy Tower, United 210, holding short 3-1 left. And they would probably say something like United 210. Clear for takeoff, runway 31 left. Wind 300 at 28, fly runway heading on departure, climb maintain 5,000 or something. They'd give us that in our clearance. What we're going to do is climb maintain 5,000 feet, and then we will kind of go from there. We're going to have to loop kind of around. We're going to be flying the wrong direction. So we're going to have to loop around away from the city. You can see the skyline off in the distance. And today we're at like 106,000 pounds, so that's going to be a wet takeoff. Holding on the brakes, let them do their thing, get us up and ready to roll.
Stabilize. 30 inches stabilize.
Nope, shut it down. We got an engine out. So we're going to hit the abort button here. And I'm going to kill it. Engine 1 is out, and of course, if this happened... Let's see here. If this happens, we would have to call Tower and say, hey, Tower, we've got a problem with one of our engines. And as long as no one's bearing down on us, we'd probably be okay. So everything is back up to start this thing. Low, both. Engine 1. We can come down here. We'll cut off. We'll unlock the mixture. Bring this back down. And just try restarting it. No harm, no foul.
6. 9.
Boost.
12.
Prime. And we've got something. Alright. So we'll let that run just a second before we kick back into the takeoff. And of course, if you're talking to Tower in this situation, which is a pretty likely situation to have happen, to be honest, if you're flying a DC-6, they would probably say advise when ready. So we would say, hey, Tower, Kennedy Tower, United 210, we're ready to go. And then they'd give your takeoff clearance again.
Water injection.
Alright, holding on the brakes, this time for real. Everything is pointing in the same direction,
30 inches stabilize.
so that's good.
stabilized. Cal flaps. Cal flaps. Cal
Everything's
flaps
still
set.
pointing in the right direction.
Full power, please. Going full power.
Slight RPM difference between 1 and 2. Engine 1's a little high.
Full power set.
And away we go. And now we have plenty of runway today, but we do have a pretty strong headwind. But if we get a strong gust, just be ready for that. We are rolling down the runway. Airspeed is alive. That is 80 knots right about there. So we'll keep the speed going. Passing 100 now, so we can entertain the idea of rotating. Just pulling it off. Getting a little off.
Buzzer right. Gear up. Gear selected up.
And it looks like we are okay. Engine 2 is pulling less, or engine 1's pulling more fuel than everything else, but that's alright. So our climb rate isn't great. Still holding power. We're making BMEP. So this is interesting. Alright, so I'm fighting a really pretty high angle attack here. And it still doesn't really want to climb out. So let's look at our engines and see what's wrong. We've got enough manifold pressure. RPM looks okay. BMEP is up there. So let's just make sure our gear is coming up and flaps are coming up as we turn left. We're going to go a heading 176 here. And I am losing altitude.
Flaps up. Flaps going up.
So, that's not what happened earlier. I'm not sure what's going on there. We may have climbed out a little too aggressively and just not, I don't know. We're still struggling a little bit here. Is the mixtures are locked and everything's up? Okay. We're still doing my gear up, gear down. Huh. Okay, so we're fighting a little bit here, but that's all right. This is why we flew this offline. Because you're coming back into a plane like this, weird stuff can occur. We've been running it pretty rough here. And something is not really going. Alright, so flaps are up, gear's up. RPM is full, forward. Now we're starting to get some traction. But I would like to see a little more airspeed too. Again, BMEP is reasonable. Got both magnetos on. This can go back to off. I'm getting a real strong left turning too, which is interesting. Let's see what's going on. Engine 1 says it's excessive. But we still have it. Alright, I'm just gonna... We gotta take manual control here. So, abort all that. My airplane. See, the thing is, I'm just... Yeah, it's almost as if I still have flaps out, but I don't. So climb power would be about 40 inches of manifold pressure. So let's set that. And then try and get on to some semblance of a course. 113.6 is the course we're looking for, so let's turn right and begin navigating. Now, I'm still extremely slow. If anything, engine 1 is putting out more power than it should be, not less. Let's just wipe this out and make sure we're not. Feathering the props or anything. No, it's not really helping. We're still well behind the power curve. Yeah, maybe. We can try, they should all be on auto. And everything's on. We've got fuel, I hope. We're starting to gain a little bit of traction, but yeah, I can't really... The weird thing is, I'm still pretty heavily nose up and just barely holding altitude. So engine 1 is now starting to lose a little bit of BMEP. And our oil pressure's low. So I'll take what altitude it can give me for now. We do need to entertain the thought of diverting at this point. Right, unfeathering engine 1. Okay, we can try that. Yeah, Snip. Realistic damage is on. If we look here, yeah, it's not like an engine 1, although it's actually come back quite a bit. The BMEPs are all reasonable for climb power. I don't see it as super low. And we have RPM. Again, engine 1's a little low at this point, but that's kind of... That shouldn't be stopping us from accelerating. Something's out that shouldn't be. Maybe... Well, let's see. What are cow flaps at? 3 degrees. We'll put them in a climb setting, maybe. Superchargers are low. Let's retract landing lights and turn them off. What else could be dragging us down? I'm gonna stall the airplane out too. So let's just try trimming and get set. So let's look at the map and see what our options are for a divert field. We're flying up Long Island, so Islip could be. Does that have any kind of nav aid? Not really, but we should be able to see it. So yeah, I just don't... we don't have any kind of power right now. It's not something stupid. I don't have spoilers out or flaps up or something. Let's try putting the nose down and see if we can gain some airspeed, and that'll help us out. We may just be behind the power curve. So that's coming back. That's helping a little bit. So let's bring this down. All right. Nope, keep the nose down. Build some speed up. All right. And still, we should be getting a little bit better, but that's all right. What was it yelling at me about engine 1 about? Oil temperature and oil pressure. I need to brush up on the RPM controls, but let's get on to our localizer here real quick and get the autopilot on. So autopilot on. We go to localizer mode now, and we'll let the plane deal with that and see if we can't get it to maintain a better climb. So we're setting 40 inches of manifold pressure. We can bring the RPMs back to 2400 if memory serves. That'll help. So climb configuration, for some whatever reason, because we weren't in a good position, the AFE didn't trigger into their climb. So it looks like RPM helped us out a lot there. So we'll keep it, we'll just keep a gentle climb to 4,000, 5,000 feet. And as we fly up Long Island, let's just keep an eye out. So that looks like Islip, Long Island MacArthur Airport. So if we can't sort it out, we can head there. We also have a few airports up the road in KOFK. We've got airports all along the way. So if we can't figure it out, we'll land there and just get ourselves a new plane. All right, so a rather hectic start, but thanks for coming along. Let's catch up on some comments. Anthony says, if only we had some period scenery for Idlewild and LaGuardia. Definitely. That would be good. Definitely would be good. Fluids runtime. And then Snip says the fluids runtime page on the tablet should show us if the engine is damaged. So it did not like catastrophic stress range is what we're getting for oil pressure. Oil pressure is very low for engine 1, and oil temperature is very high. Now, why would that be? I'm hoping that it's not that we have high mixture where everything else is low, and I don't think it is. And then let's just make sure that our RPMs are... I don't have a good view of the pedestal setup, it doesn't look like. So we'll just hit reset and change which propeller we're going to reference and see if that does anything for us. The prop RPM looks fine, it is just the manifold pressure. So it's throwing that out. There may be some logic to just shutting down engine 1 on the maintenance tab. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Engine 1, 0.85 hours, and it's got a black X, which tells me that it's not very good. So we'll probably be getting a new engine in Boston. But one engine, we're situation's stable now, so we can we'll roll with it. We'll give, it's already gone, we'll take what it can give us. Now, to refresh my feathering procedure, if we do in fact lose engine 1 for whatever reason, I believe we got to bring the power back shut off the mixture, shut off the engine, and then we push to feather. I gotta read it. I can pretend like I remember, but and I'm getting beeped at for over speed, I believe. I'm not sure why it's beeping at me. And we're doing okay so far. So, emergency procedures. Propeller feathering and unfeathering. Phase 1, we put propeller master control into manual. Prop selector control feather. We're going to push in on the feathering button. Then we take the mixture to idle, cut off, and we pull out the fire extinguisher mixture handle. Once that's done, we can close cowl flaps, shut down the fuel booster pump, generators, ignition off, all that stuff. So we're still climbing out. We're at about 7,000 feet. We may call it at 8,000 feet or so. If it doesn't, well, we're doing okay. We're still at 2400 RPM. And our climb power, we need a little bit more. So let's climb up. We'll climb up to maybe 10,000 feet, we'll say. We'll call an audible. And then we'll probably shut down engine 1 and save what little metal parts are it. Save the scrap. So Steven says, gasket blown on 1, oil leak, giving low pressure and high oil temperature on 1. It could be. So yeah, we taxied out, got onto the runway, 1 was dead. So it may well be an oil leak. But I mean, it's not showing, I don't know, it's not showing us that we're losing oil too much. So I'm not sure. Let's so let's keep that up, our feathering, and let's go to, let's just open up a new copy of this if we can. Now, if we go to our EFB, this is the DC-6 manual I've got up. We do not, thankfully, have a landing gear failure. Feathering we'll talk about, but individual propellers out of sync, I don't think that's our problem. We've just got a bad engine. Now, engine surge, malfunctioning fuel system. It should be remembered, vapor locking in the fuel system, either in fuel lines or it can alternate. So I don't think that's what we have. Thankfully, no fires. Supercharger, anti-ice systems. So, let's see. I need for dummies. Let's get for dummies. Alright, so we do have engine stress visualizer for dummies, which is what I need. Black is not good, no bueno. Red is bad. Most colors are bad except for green. So, we're at 9,000 feet, by the way. So we don't have excessive RPM. We have a high oil temperature. Now, orange and red will be indicative of some excessive internal wear. That sounds like us. That is causing the engine to run hotter than normal. It's not too cold. Well, yeah, no, it's not too cold. We're at the high end. Oil pressure, red indicates that we're out of bounds. Severe damage is likely. It's important to understand what causes high or low pressure to take appropriate corrective action. Poor lubrication of the engine as a result of cold oil or a blockage in the oil system. So maybe we just fired it up and didn't let it run while we were taxiing out. That could be a problem, like if it never really... Depending on how early the engine caught, that could be one of the problems we're having. Because we did fire it up and then put full power onto it, so that could probably cause that. I'm not sure. 10,000 feet is coming up, so let's start bringing this down. So we may have blown it on takeoff, not letting it warm up. That's kind of what I can think of, because these are pretty newly rebuilt engines. So we'll snap that in at 10. We are about 22 miles from our VOR, which is the Hampton VOR. We're still running... It's... I don't like what it's doing here. Alright, let's take this off. And then let's get it set up manually. It's going to freak out briefly. But hopefully it comes back. Alright, cruise checklist. Let's get the guys to fix all the things I've put out of place. We are just kind of drifting into a high angle of attack, which is slightly concerning. Our poor passengers. This is why I like to fly cargo, so that we're not bouncing people all around. Alright, cruise power is set. Well, they hit a setting, it looks like. We still have low oil pressure, but the power is now equalized. So it must be... it must be something in here. I'm not sure. We're getting up to good speed, though, so let's get... we gotta get out of localizer mode, is what I'm forgetting. Gyro pilot on. And then we can go into localizer mode. So let's see if that plays any nicer. This shouldn't do anything in altitude mode, and it doesn't really. Alright. So some crisis is averted. So we are we're on our way. It still doesn't want to hold. That's weird. So Snippy, yes, I did create the Matt's livery for this plane. That was the one. I can't remember who the stream was by, but I saw one stream before it came out. That was probably the one that inspired me to play it. And they were flying in a Matt's livery, so I went out and made that one. It's good fun. I don't make a ton of liveries anymore just because it's such a cumbersome process. I did it a lot when it came out first, but the subsequent updates, it's hard to just update a lot of them at once. But I'm glad to hear you're liking the Matt's livery. It was a fun one to make. It is, it's pretty iconic for the DC-6. Pretty iconic. We're at 10 miles out, so we can go ahead and put it into gyro pilot mode, let it stay this direction. And we will go ahead and keep on trucking. So a little bit of drama. We're here at, well, 9,500 feet or so, or 11,500 feet, if I can read the gauge. So thanks for coming along with our demonstration of how not to fly the DC-6. Hey, it happens. But it is fun, and well, it's not fun to be hanging at 500 feet and wondering why you're not climbing out. But it is fun to run through all these different flows and check and make sure things are doing what you think they're going to do. So let's just reorient. We're back on the flight plan. Hampton HTO 113.6 will be turning to 079 and heading for the Sandy Point VOR 117.8. And after that, it's going to be 087 for 46 to Martha's Vineyard at 114.5. I'm keeping an eye on abort or on potential divert locations. Once we pass the Hampton VOR, we do have East Hampton KHTO, and we have Block Island State Park, or Block Island State Airport at the Sandy Point VOR, and we have Martha's Vineyard MVY at the Martha's Vineyard VOR. So we're pretty well set up for any of that. If we have to go in, we can do that. Is it still telling me that my engine is dead? It is. It's saying that it's too high. So yeah, we've probably killed it. So let's give the scrap folks something to work with here. And just for the heck of it, let's feather this engine. So master control is going to go down to manual. Wow, it really, that's bugging me. Prop master control manual. We're at 2100 now. We will push in the, well, yeah, so we'll push in the feather button and mixture down to unlock and idle cutoff. Yeah, I know. Don't yell at me. And we've now passed the VOR, so 079 outbound. I should probably do that before we mess around too much with this. So we'll have to make a left-handed turn. And then full out there. I do realize that it is off. And then the engine should go to 20 inches of manifold pressure or so, because that is where it's at. Can I shut this off? I wonder. Next up, we can close cowl flaps. Gear and wings and flaps are up still. Fuel boost pump can go off. Generator. I gotta go up to the top now. Come off. Our ignition off. Fuel tank selector valve. Make sure that there's no fuel getting into it. Off. And cross feed valves are off. Alright, so it's yelling at me. I wish it would stop that, but we are now turning, and I'm doing too much at once. That's the fun thing about this plane. Of all the planes, the DC-6 is the most fun to get doing too much at once. So we'll follow this radial outbound. That is just fine. But I wish I could acknowledge the warnings. Yeah, it is. It's not. It's funny. It's not the first DC-6 emergency I've seen in a stream where it's you just don't know what's going on. Is it gonna make that noise the whole time? So yeah, fun. I mean, it is. It is a valuable thing to run through every now and then. What you do when things aren't. It's not, and it's funny. It's not something you see so much in jets. When you do something and things aren't behaving as you think, but that's the crux of well, a lot of being prepared for these kinds of things. All right, I recognize that this is not working. Let's see. Google is our friend. So you see a nice feathered prop. We're making do with 3. Again, it's telling me that my... Alright, so that's good. Let's throw it into localizer, let it catch it. Yeah, I get it. So thank you all for coming along. On this rather eventful so far DC-6 flight. What's it doing here? What happened? Oh, it didn't like what I did. Okay. Back that out. We'll take control. And, yeah, alright. So, level that out. That looks pretty good, actually. So let's make a right-hand turn. Feather out. We need to climb up to 10,000 feet anyway. Trim so that we're not super high AOA. And just chase that line a little bit. And let the nose come up a bit. Alright, so I do apologize for the horn. It is not the most fun thing to listen to. So Slendy, that's a good question. When we lined up on the runway, engine 1 was out, so we fired it up, and my hypothesis is that we didn't give it enough time to run up and warm up. So I think we cooked the engine, shoving it into takeoff power immediately after starting up. So engine 1 is kaput. And we just feathered it for practicing feathering. Not for any particular good reason. And if it's going to keep horning, if it's going to keep making that noise, we may just let it do its thing. All right, that's good. Let's get back here and onto localizer mode. So, restarting an engine out of feather, your boost, and it's basically the reverse of what we did. Boost pumps go to low, generator switch can come on, ignition switch can go to both, cowl flaps, as desired, to maintain the adequate temperature. We'll put it there. We need to come back down here to our fire extinguisher, close that handle. Fuel tank selector. We'll select something with fuel in it. Crossfeed valve handle is as desired. And then we are to reduce our airspeed. If, let's just take full control back. So it's based on the, okay, so it's based on where the lever is. Interesting. Okay, so we'll undo all that, but you just keep doing the same thing. Generator's off, magneto's off, engine 1 is feathered. If we need another engine for whatever reason, we can get another engine. We'll have them put a new engine on it in Boston. So that's why we feathered the prop, is essentially engine 1's already dead. It's not doing anything for me. So we'll use a little bit extra power here to stay in the game. But I will go ahead and let's go ahead and level out. So for some reason the other issue we're fighting is this thing wants to fly at a really high angle of attack. We have all our flaps and gear in, but when I leave it to its own devices, it likes to fly at a high angle of attack. So, not sure what that's all about. But we are now heading into, we're about 30 miles outbound, so 117.8 is our next radial. So let's see what that gives us. And we're right on top of it, so 117.8, and then the next one is going to be 114.5. So we're going to fly outbound 087 from this one. 087, not a huge difference. We'll go to 8 and then a little bit more. Turn right, and then we're just trying to maintain altitude. So let's trim it out so that I'm kind of level. No, we're turning right now. We're doing all right. So all this is off. Let's just get rid of everything. As we head now for the Sandy Point VOR, which is going to be on 114.5. 1145. And so there we have something. Again, I'm just trying not to just lose too much altitude. I feel like my vertical speed's all over the place. See, this dip right here, I'm not really understanding why we're starting to lose so much altitude. So let's bring the nose up a skosh, but it's just, it's giving me big swings in the vertical speed. And that VOR radial is about to come in, so we will just trim it out and make it happen. So we're getting into Sandy Point, and the next thing we're going to have to think about is what's going to happen when we get to Boston. So we're still probably about a half hour or so away. The next point after this is Martha's Vineyard, and at that point we'll make a left-hand turn north towards Boston. So Boston, we need to figure out, this is where the co-pilot is helpful. That's true. This is where it helps, because there are a few plates to juggle doing VOR navigation and fighting a plane that wants to dive into the ground. So I'm going to go back to what hurt me before, because I haven't learned my lesson. And I am lazy. And so let's just see what's going on at the... It's really not too far off, but it just, yeah, it feels like the nose is coming up quite a bit. I'm not sure. But it will stabilize out. And we'll throw a new engine on when we get to Boston. So Boston International Airport is a classic airport. Let's pull up KBOS. I'd imagine they're probably having some high winds too if we saw them in New York. So Boston weather, temperature -3 C's, -17 C dew point, wind 310 at 16. So yeah, pretty similar here to what is here at, or what we left at New York. So Boston's got a smattering of runways we can choose from, but we'll probably take 33 left, which I think is one of the more standard ones to land on. So 33 left, and if we pull up the, we'll pull up the ILS. So let's get, make sure we're not falling out of the sky first and foremost. Let's give it a little more power. So we have Boston Airport. all these runways. 33 left is down here, should be off the water. And then we're going to find an ILS for 33 left, ILS localizer 33 left, which will start at 4,000 feet. And we'll just basically shoot for the localizer. We're going to be coming from the south, so it really shouldn't be a problem. We're going to track inbound to the Boston VOR and then go from there. So if we're coming in... Yeah, so we'll try that out. And we are holding altitude, but again, that speed is just not great, and we've got a strangely high angle of attack. I guess that might not be strangely high. Maybe that is accurate for cruise power. So we're now 16 miles from Sandy Point. So let's keep an eye on what our next waypoint is. We have 46 miles to go to Martha's Vineyard, 114.5. So it's going to find that and should point in the right direction, and it is. So we're going to Gyropilot and just let it rediscover its true path here. So thanks for coming along as we fly a rather shambly DC-6 flight from New York, KJFK, up to Boston, KBOS. We're now in the cruise. We've got another 27 miles to Martha's Vineyard. Martha's Vineyard, we then make a left-hand turn, heading 359 for 60 miles. And at the other end will be the Boston VOR on 112.7. We'll intercept the ILS a little bit earlier than that. Once we pick it up, basically, we'll go ahead and intercept that and fly it in. So again, we're flying DC-6 United colors today. It is a really fascinating airplane, fascinating use case. These propliners, again, used to be pretty ubiquitous. The DC-6B mainliner. And yeah, if we get this figured out, we're looking at some other flights we could do. I'd love to do transatlantic, maybe a transcontinental route too. Like one of the things that the DC-6 did a lot of, I've been reading some articles about their use with United that I'll go ahead and link in the notes below, but this one's by Barry Lloyd on key.aero, and basically described the use of DC-6s as the mainline fleet for United in the late 40s to 60s. So they were in service from 1947 to 1970, and in total United ran 95 total DC-6s of different types. They had a few cargo, they had a few DC-6s, and then they had a few DC-6Bs, which is what we're in, which had better range, more fuel capacity, and could do a lot of the other things, a lot of the transatlantic stuff. Of particular note, they started out flying New York to Los Angeles and Los Angeles to New York with a fueling stop in Lincoln, Nebraska. Also took over the San Francisco to Hawaii route for United early on. Again, they used a small number of freight airplanes too. But they start out basically 1940s, 1946, 1947, testing it out, making sure it works. They were notable for being pressurized, which lets you cross. You don't think about it in a big modern jet flying at 40,000 feet, 37,000 feet, or whatever. But crossing the Rocky Mountains, you need to be probably at least 10,000, 12,000, 14,000 feet. And if you're doing that in a small prop plane, well, that can be quite difficult. So when you have a pressurized airplane, you're getting up higher. We also have superchargers, which we haven't used because we're not going to get high enough, but maybe on the way back, we'll see. Which will help us get above into 16,000, 18,000 feet without losing a ton of power. But pressurized helps be more comfortable, and you're also getting a lot faster. These airplanes were a lot faster than their cousin, the DC-4, which is DC-4. It often gets confused for DC-6, especially looking online. It's kind of hard to tell sometimes, but existed at different times. DC-4 is a late World War II airplane. Basically a 4-engined DC-3. Made bigger. So, when a typical total flight in a DC-6 across the country in those early days, they say it was about 10 hours with a stop in Lincoln, Nebraska, or a fueling stop somewhere. Compare that to a Lockheed Constellation. That took 11 hours. DC-4s would do that same journey, 14 hours, which is a long time to be in any airplane. Yeah, as you'll notice here on here on the back too, they marketed them as the mainliners. So the DC-6 United would call the mainliner 300, kind of emulating seaboard ship practices, cruise ships, and well, not cruise ships, but ocean liners and stuff like that. So this is still a time when airliners are operating very much in that mold. And that number apparently was referenced the cruising speed in miles per hour of each airplane. So a DC-3 would be called a mainliner 170, cruised at 170 miles per hour. So we're about 10.8 miles away. Time to start thinking about our next thing. We'll go into gyropilot mode. And again, next is going to be a turn to 359. We're going to intercept the 359 radial outbound from this one, and then the next frequency we're going to be on is 112.7. So we can go ahead and see. I don't know why that one messes it up so badly. 112.7 is the Boston VOR, and then we'll also be looking for the ILS localizer for 3 left, which is going to be 110.7. So 110.7 will do ourselves a favor later on when we're a little bit more stressed out. And we're still holding altitude. We're not making great speed, but it's fine. So, okay, so 10 miles, 7 miles. And we will get ready to make a left-hand turn. So thanks for coming along. We are again en route to Boston International Airport, Logan, Boston. KBOS here in the DC-6B mainliner in United colors. I fear many of the United customers are going to be a little unhappy go to Delta or American. They might find their way to modern jets where we're not bouncing around the sky so much. But we've got it figured out, and we didn't crash, so that was good. Looked like a real possibility there at a second. Again, we're down an engine. Engine 1, we were grinding it into, we were shredding it, so we just shut it down to practice the feathering procedure. And we'll keep the scrap guys employed when they tear that thing down, and hey, maybe they'll find something useful in there. I don't know. So about 2 miles now, we can start to think about what our next move is going to be. You can see where the next VOR is, so we're going to start dialing in a left-hand turn to basically point ourselves at the VOR, and then 359 is going to be the radial we are going to intercept, which is nearest makes almost no difference, 0. And we do want to just overshoot enough to let the airplane catch that. Here it comes. We'll see if the localizer can catch it. It's coming in fast. We're far away, so it's not a huge shock. 1.7 miles now outbound. If we look here, 58 miles to Boston. We will kind of expect the localizer about 15, or we'll really start looking for the localizer 20 miles out. Also time to start thinking about our descent. We're at 9,000 feet. we need to be at 4,000 feet to start this approach. We'll eventually have to be down at 3,000 feet. We may just say 3,000. But 4,000 feet to start this approach. So 9,000 minus 4,000, 5,000 feet. So we should start heading downhill. We'll start heading downhill fairly soon. Once we're about 15 miles from the Martha's Vineyard VOR. So I believe that's Martha's Vineyard Airport down there. Out here off the coast of Massachusetts. Cruising in our DC-6. So as I was rambling about, it's a really interesting article. Again, I'll link it in the description once this goes up. But, actually I could put it in chat too. But essentially, it's just a good, fun, good overview of the use of DC-6s with United. Pressurizing them, they were faster, bigger than other things that had come before. And again, but it still almost exists in this world where air travel is still very much trying to be in the mold of something like sea travel. And a lot of the things are based off of that. Now, United Freight service was also something that DC-6s did. It was United started flying freight and airmail in the 40s, and then between 56 and 58 they got a bunch of DC-6As, which again we also have in sim if you want to fly that, and you could do a lot of those longer haul cargo routes that they could use them for. So at one point you'd have a United cargo plane too. You'd have, obviously you have specialized equipment. It's it's the DC-6A that we have in sim. And you can definitely, so if you want some more cargo routes too. Again, a big emphasis in the United world was cross-country stuff for the DC-6. By the 60s, and again, this is kind of a 60s vintage airplane that we're flying in now. A lot of them would operate out of Chicago to the west, out towards Nebraska, or places like Michigan and Ohio, not necessarily for the same long routes. At this stage, when you're starting to get bigger, more reliable, faster jets that can do those longer routes more efficiently. And they also had some sleeper style too, so it's just, you get a lot of variation in how these airplanes were operated in this kind of time frame that we're talking about in United. Towards the end, obviously, people started picking jets over propliners like this because the jets were faster, quieter, all that stuff. So eventually, DC-6 fades out. 1970 is the last time they fly them between San Francisco, Salt Lake City. And then they had a couple other stops that it would stop at, which would be the last DC-6 United operation, which lasted until February of 1970. So, I mean, there's none of the United ones are preserved. They do have a couple that they've planned to restore into a that kind of configuration, but for now this is really the closest we can get to flying one of those old ones. That is good fun. These old airplanes do they do have a lot of different things that you can do with them. Steven says he loves flying this area. Doing it since Flight Sim 4. Yep. Yeah, just installed Elizabeth Field, Block Island, Bradley International. That's good. Are those payware or freeware? I haven't seen, I know they have a couple of those out there on the freeware scene, but I really haven't looked into too much. I haven't flown a lot of nitty gritty in New England. I have looked at doing some of the Wings events that the Boston Virtual ARTC does. So, you know, that's something I've looked into. It's a good place to fly GA. There's definitely a lot of cool airports and cool places to go visit if you're looking for somewhere to make your home. We're now about 17 miles out, and let's go into gyropilot mode while I switch this to save some bucking and Bronco. And 42 miles away from the airport. We're going to go ahead and descend. We don't really have too much terrain as a factor here. So we're going to go ahead and down to 4,000 feet. And we'll let the guys do their descent checks in a little bit. So we'll just keep it on coming down. I'll come back a little bit on the power. And again, we're aiming for 4,000 feet. The localizer, just to orient ourselves, we're flying straight at Boston Airport. The runway is a little bit off, kind of going across us, just a smidge. So we're going to have to turn right. We're expecting to turn right before we get to Boston. If we're really within 15 miles of Boston, we need to make a right-hand turn and find the localizer and then turn left back onto it. So Stephen has some good payware airports in the area. Elizabeth by Four Simmers, Block Island by Drzecki, and LVR for Bradley. I have seen the Bradley one. I did not know that Drzecki had Block Island. I do really love his DCA stuff. So definitely cool stuff. I mean, there's a lot of, yeah, it's a great area, especially with a lot of, like you said, flight sim heritage. A lot of people fly up here. It's consistently one of the most populated, if you're interested in VAT sim, one of the most active ARTCCs. So it is a really good place to flesh out if you are interested in flying. You have some interesting airspace, lots of different airports. Definitely a cool place. We may have to do some more general aviation cruises around here. So we'll keep it on going downhill. 37 miles now. So let's keep it going. We'll go down at 1,000 feet per minute or so. And we're making good speed, but we'll ask the guys to run the descent checklist. So again, we're expecting to turn right here to catch the localizer. And if we tune in... Yeah. I want to... not do that. Okay. We'll hit the button here. 110.7. Once the bigger needle gets picked up, it should just be slightly off kilter from the other one. We will see. And we are down through 7,500 now. Gaia for Block Island and Latin VFR for Bradley. Well, thanks for stopping by, Stephen. I'll have to check those out. Lots of good airport recommendations. So thanks for coming along, everybody, tonight on our weeknight flights. We're taking out the DC-6, and if you're joining us now, you have missed quite the hair-raising adventure. We fighting bad engines that I'd probably destroyed, so we're going to get a nice, expensive one when we get down to Boston. And but all in all, pretty good. We learned how to feather a prop again. And we're going to do a 3-engine landing here. Now, there was a procedure in here I did see for 3-engine go-around, which maybe we ought to brush up on in our current situation. So emergency, so the 3-engine go-around, one dead engine, inboard or outboard, doesn't really matter. If it becomes necessary to pull up and go around on a 3-engine approach, gear down, flaps 30, 3 engines operating, inoperative propeller feathered, so that's going to be the configuration we're going down. We're going to apply full takeoff power to pull up to best climb speed, and we can use water if we have to. We'll raise the landing gear and retract the flaps to 20, increase climb airspeed to 139, so we'll hit 140. And it is a safe configuration for takeoff, climb, cruise, approach, and landing, everything that we want to do. And the other important note in here, not that we really need to read it, but we are okay to go to full flaps with an engine out. If we lose another engine, that's another story, but 3 engines, we should be good to go. Let's see what let's see, what What is our altimeter at Boston? 3022 is our altimeter. That may be something we'll use a little bit later. So we're coming now down through 5,000 feet. 26 miles to go to Boston International Airport. We do have the localizer. So at this point, we can even start thinking about chasing the localizer instead of necessarily the straight-in VOR. But not yet. Once we get out to 20 miles, we'll probably... I'm sure there's a right way to do that in instrument land, but it's been a long flight already. So, coming downhill, they have put my bad throttle into nothing. Oops. Nope, don't need a second engine out. Yeah, we're coming now 4,500 feet, so we're getting ready to get situated. We are 24 miles from Boston Airport. And again, in this case, I'm going to kind of err on the side of a little bit further out to the water. So if we overshoot it and come back a little bit, it's not a parallel approach, so I'm going to err on that side, but we shall see. 4,000 feet is here. We will hit it. I've lost some of that altitude. That was reassuring me a little bit. And we'll let the speed start coming down to 175 knots. And now we are a little bit left. You can start to see the VORs diverging a little bit. We're going to kick it out to the right just a skosh. And see what we can do. So speed's coming back down. We are not quite what I would call in range yet, which is all right. Again, if you're wondering why the buzzer's going off, we've got an engine out, and the AFE has my throttle pretty well bang on in the idle position, and it doesn't like that. So we can keep on turning again, just ever so slightly. And let's work a little harder and smarter, maybe. Our final approach course, we're going to be going... What is it going to be? Alright, so we are coming in to runway 33 left, so we're going to be looking for 329. So if we really wanted to, and we are in gyro pilot mode, we could dial in the 329 radial. And I would just want to put in the ILS here instead. So the ILS is going to be... what did I say the ILS was? ILS being... And are we still in at speed? I guess. So our frequency is going to be 110.7. So 110.7. We'll go to that. And now it's giving us our localizer information. So we'll actually navigate to this localizer now and keep we'll keep Boston, the airport, on number 2. So we're at 16 miles now. We can go ahead and run our in range. We're starting to come out over the water now. I'm not sure exactly where the airport is, but it should be kind of off to our left here. And then once we see this, once we see our VOR start to come in, we'll make a left-hand turn to intercept. Now, as far as altitude, here's the approach chart. The approach plate here, we're coming in 15 miles, 4,000 feet. 9.6 miles, we want to be at 3,000 feet. So the airplane is already not really happy with me. we can start a descent to about 3,000 feet now. And I'm not loving this nose up attitude, so let's go ahead and take control. We've got everything programmed in. We can turn off. And I'm just going to take control here. Because again, I'm not really trusting Autopilot right now. Okay, so let's keep it, we're going to fly basically out over the water, then turn left to intercept the localizer, and again, at about 10 miles, we want to be at 3,000 feet. So let's fix the trim. I do really love having a trim wheel, having trim on an axis, but it does screw everything up when you go to it. I wish there was a better way to do that. And of course, it is yelling at me because our engine 3 is out, so this is a 3-engine landing. We're going to come out to 3,000 feet a little bit here. Now, we're basically, landing procedure, we're going to run before landing checklist. They're going to put everything down and get everything in its correct, proper position. My job is to put the airplane in line with the runway and keep us at a safe altitude. And again, it kind of wants to fight me on that. So, we shall see. Once we really get within 10 miles in sight of the runway, we can run before landing. There's Boston downtown, so the airport should be just beyond our pillar. And I'm getting, again, just a bit, I'm having to put in a little bit of right stick, if you see my wheel, to maintain wings level. And we're just going to try and hold 3,000 feet here until we get a little bit further. The next 4.7 miles, we want to be at 1,500 feet. So, not rocket science, and we should have the ILS by that point anyway. And here comes the localizer, so we can make our turn now. Just try and catch it without losing a ton of altitude. 10 miles to go now. Glide slope also starting to come in, so we will start to trim out for that and do my visual to the runway. Not quite. I think we have it actually. Should be just off our nose, the runway. So I'm showing you the tablet, which is not going to help you get up. So Snip, I have never declared an emergency on VATSIM. Not to say that I haven't had emergencies on VATSIM. Once, well, actually I was doing this very approach. Maybe I shouldn't say this as we're coming in. But I did do this approach in the CRJ, and for some reason I landed and kicked me way back up into the stratosphere. I didn't call an emergency on that one. Again, in flight, I haven't flown the DC-6. But again, usually, CRJ is usually pretty well behaved, and if it's screwing something up, it's my fault, usually, not some great emergency. I know some people do like to practice. I don't know enough about the emergency procedures. I settle really for trying to fly it semi-normally. And if I can maintain some kind of competence in that, I'm pretty happy. Alright, let's bring, before landing checklist, we've got the runway in sight. We've got the glide slope. We've got our ILS lined up. And we've got it with the Mark 1 eyeball. Coming into land here at Boston International Airport. Again, wind 300 at 16. Not as bad as New York, but still significant wind. But again, it's mostly a headwind coming in at 3-3, so we shouldn't have too much of a crosswind, but we shall see. We're getting a little above the glide slope now, so we'll let it come on down. So we got 3 green, gear down. And again, we've got 3 engines, so that's something to consider. And I'm just going to take control of my power now. Again, I'm trying to set, I would aim for 100 BMEP in this stage, but we're going to give it a 110 since I'm down to 3 engines. And again, we may use we're going to use some throttle here. My flaps, I think they leave me in flaps 20. So at this point, we can really go flaps 30. And I'm going to keep it flaps 30 for now, just again, because if we go, if we do have to go around, we want to go back up to flaps 20 in full takeoff power, which again is 59 point something, 59 point something inches of manifold pressure. We are above the glide slope, which is all right. I'm fighting the plane a little bit. Just, I feel like it wants to fall out of the sky, but we're coming downhill, still pretty fast. I can give it flaps 40 now. I'm just trying to keep it in my head how much flaps we have in. And 3333. It's a long runway, so. Yeah, alright. And I'm losing... Whoa. So let's let the nose come down and give it a little power here. Bring flaps back up. Almost stalled it there looking at the chart. So we're now behind the power curve. Well, we can go even flaps 20. I'm willing to go. It is slightly... a bit of a handful here, so let's just keep power coming up. Yeah, now we're really behind the curve. So the bottom's dropping out, and I'm losing all sorts of, ah, man, I've just got no, elevator authority, really. I'm almost full right stick. So. But we're doing all right. We're coming on downhill. Again, man, just full right stick here. I got lots of power in, too. So that just kind of went south on me. Man. It's yeah, it's what it's doing. It's just not really responding to me. So we're low and slow, which is suboptimal. And we're actually okay now, but yeah, I mean, we're just descending very quickly, and there's not a heck of a lot I can do to stop it. The bottom is coming out. Let's just see over. I'd love to not crash live, but I am full right elevator. I have flown planes that have been shot that feel better than this. And again, we're just kind of behind the power curve a little bit. We may just make it, but I'm not flying. We're not going to fly in this plane again. Again, I'm full. Whew. Alright, we're over the runway. Let's get this thing down. Let's try not to smash into the ground too badly, but... And again, I actually have a whole lot of power here. Whole lot of power, and I still don't have a whole lot of speed. Yuck. That wasn't very fun. Whew. Well, we're on the ground. Let's get off the runway for the inevitable investigation. I hit the ground so hard my parking brake went on. Alright, well, we're on the ground. I don't even want to know what that was, but welcome in. Welcome to Boston, everybody. Thank you for flying United. Whew. We are pretty heavy, that's true. 102. Yeah, full passengers. That's not helping the situation. So we haven't made it. Yeah, if we were on VATSIM, that one might be in a... Well, we'd put on a brave face for the controller. But that'd be pretty close. Alright, let's taxi on up to somewhere. And let's get a new airplane. We're gonna get a new DC-6 and try that out. So we're going to cross 4 right here. And we'll just keep on crossing in. So thanks for coming along on our first leg out to Boston. We had some adventure in the beginning, we had some adventure in the middle, we had some adventure in the end. So I think on the way back, we're going to fly up the coast. And we're just going to try that again, really. And just see what we can do to keep in spec. We'll pull up to one of these gates. And I'll go ahead and reboot. We will fly probably a lighter airplane. Again, we only have half fuel. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It may just be too heavy for what we're trying to do. All right, welcome to the gate here in Boston. I'm just going to shut it down. We're going to stand by here for a second. And, yeah, exactly, practicing STOL. We're practicing our STOL ops. So we're going to shut it down. We'll hang out for a quick second. I'm going to grab a drink, because after that whole escapade, we're going to turn it around and head on back to New York and see if we can do that a little bit better. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. So the maintainers apologized for whatever was wrong with the airplane on that last one. Not that it's all their fault. But, so we're here and ready to start Untitled DC-6. And let's dial in some passengers. We're going to take a little bit less. We're still going to, so that's one thing. We had all 4 main tanks at 4,000, so we probably don't even need that much. We could go 3,000 pounds of fuel. When in doubt, take less stuff. So we'll take 51 passengers and just a smidge of fuel. That puts us gross weight 85,000 pounds. So that should be all right for us. Now we should be ready before start, but we'll let them do that. So, welcome back. We're going to route plan this because I haven't route planned this one. So we'll do it together. Sky Vector is my tool of choice here. You can also use the little nav map if you want. Let's make a new flight plan. Boss to KJFK. And it's not going to take us an hour and a half. Our cruising speed should be, we'll say 240 conservatively. Now, last time we flew out along Long Island and in. This time let's fly over Massachusetts and kind of down around New York. Maybe? Does that make sense? Not really. So we're probably coming out the way we came in. So again, and I'm really just looking for these VOR stations, and we'll do that. So Putnam, PUT is going to be out here to the east. So basically we depart off the runway, we fly out to the east. And then maybe we hit Madison or Bridgeport, one of those two. Yeah, we'll hit Madison. And we really should actually look at our approaches. So what are our options coming into Kennedy? KJFK. Now we want something that's not going to be turboprops and is going to be coming out from the west. It's coming out from the kind of the northwest. Now, flights into Boston. Let's, if we can pull up. And for this, I find that it's easiest to do light aware. KBOS, KJFK. Just to get kind of a broad idea of what people are doing. So for instance, we have a Brickyard 5621, which went out this way, and then back to Boston. They followed at 20,000 feet. So that's when expected to depart. So that's kind of how they're going out Long Island and then basically straight into JFK 33 left. So let's see what we got. So that's coming from the south. Kingston 1 is mostly coming from the northwest. The Lendy 6, that's LaGuardia, so that's coming from the last west Wilkes-Barre. This, so the Parch 3 is kind of where we're coming from. Boston should be up here. Sandy Point we came in at. So let's see. Procedure is turbojets only, which disqualifies us, but this could be a scaffold for what we're doing. And then Pauling 2. Applicable to prop and turbojets operating 250K or less. So this would be what I would say we'd fly. Yeah, so what are our transitions? We could go to Chester, we could go to Albany. Or Delancey, so Albany, yeah. Let's just see what Rover 2 is while we're at it. Rover 2 is turbojets only. So Pauling is our option. So the Pauling 2, if we were to fly the Pauling 2 approach, that's Bridgeport. I mean, we wouldn't even really go all the way out to Pauling. So I think that would be out. So Kingston's out here. If we just, so Chester. Oh, and then Carmel is here. Or, yeah, Carmel is here. So Pauling to Carmel. So we could fly west out to Pauling, Carmel, and fly that one. So that would say, what was Pauling? PWL. PWL, and then Carmel would be CMK. And from there, we would fly... oh, I guess Palming isn't the transition. It's Chester that's the transition. How far out of our way does Chester take us? So Chester's way up here, which is kind of out of our way. So, you know, I might fly all to Pauling and let them come in this way. If we wanted to be good, we could do that. But again, it's... We're expecting 6,000 at Loves and then Bridgeport. And then in. So, you know, we're just going to file direct. In these kinds of situations, I would often file a lot more direct route. And then if they want to put us on a SID, they can, but we're going to be kind of a special case. Anyway, we'll go to Calverton, CCC. And we'll fly more direct route. Groton, maybe, GON. Or back to Madison, MD. 24 miles. And then that'll pretty nicely line us up with the ILS for Kennedy coming up Long Island again. Only thing to look out for would be the Class Charlie at Long Island, where we'd have to be above 4,100 feet. And we can kick out to the west if we need to over the water. So that's what we'll fly. They said we're ready for engine start, so let's go ahead and get ready for engine start. Let me save my nav log. All right, so enough table talk. Engine start. Well, let's push back first before we hurt anybody. We'll call our invisible tug. Parking brake off, and we'll go ahead and push on back. Now, at Boston, I'm going to assume we're departing... well, we can actually see what is... they have a really good website. So let's look Boston. Boston Virtual ARTCC. What are they saying is happening at Boston right now? They're departing ILS 27. So we will plan to depart ILS runway 27. Or no, they're landing ILS 27. We'll depart 33 left. It would help if I could read. Alright, so we're back out onto the taxiway. We'll go ahead and do this. It is a slightly more involved procedure than your turbojets. So 3, both on 3. Should make sure that we have fuel. Oh, and the other thing, while we were in the... yeah, so it looks like we've done a little bit of a number on all of them, but while we were in the shop, we got a new DC-6. Boost pump, that's all on. Let's just ask them to rerun things. Oh, I see. So we must have been on external power. No APU in this thing, so.
Voice recorder. Tasted. Oil coolers and cow flaps. Porter in position. Fuel and fluids.
All right, so thanks for coming along. We are heading out now from Boston back up to JFK in New York, New York.
Checked.
We're going to let them sort everything out.
Checked.
Make sure, double sure everything is in the correct positions. We're going to plan on departing 3-3 left. Which, if we go to our Boston...
Closed.
taxi diagram, we're kind of here. We're kind of out on the...
Pins. Removed. 3 on board. Seatbelts and pedals.
we're kind of out on
Throttles.
the main apron here. We'll probably go out Charlie. We might do Charlie. 3-3 left. Maybe Chilima Charlie, 3-3 left.
Start engines.
Alright, so that is the call to start engines, and I'm not going to sleep on it this time. 3, boost pumps to low, engine selector on 3. We're going to go to both on the magnetos.
3.
And we got callouts. So we got a new DC-6 with new engines.
9. 12.
Boost, prime, give it some fuel. And see if we cough to life. Looks like we have. I'm going to hold and jiggle the throttle just to make sure. Nothing too weird happens. 4, low, both. Make sure we have fuel pressure. We do. And hit start.
3. 6. 9.
Boost, prime,
12.
and we'll kick it into gear here. And we have something happening. That looks pretty good. All right, engine 4, Clayton, welcome along. Good to see you, man. Engine 2, both. So we'll select engine 2. Make sure we have fuel pressure. In fact, we do. And hit start.
3. 6. 9. 12.
Boost, prime. Downhill mixture on 2. Is it just me or does it feel slower now? I'm not sure. Maybe that's what a real engine, a new engine feels like. So if you missed our adventure down here, we had some fun. Had trouble climbing out, had trouble landing. Basically, we're down on power and we lost engine 1 pretty early on. I think I blew it, not letting it warm up enough on the takeoff run. So we're going to see if we can do this one run back a little bit better. Should be about a 50-minute flight if all goes well. We do have fuel pressure. We do.
3. 6. 9.
Boost, prime,
12.
and up. It is pretty cold out, so that's something we should consider as well. Boston, temperature in Boston today, I think was -3 Cs, which is not, I mean, it's not super cold in Fs, but it's still cold. Altimeter in Boston is going to be, so let's just go over weather real quick. 310 at 14 knots. No real clouds to speak of. Altimeter 3027. It is -4 degrees Celsius. And our altimeter in hectopascals, if you are so inclined, 1025. Okay, so that is all set up. I believe we are ready to go. So after start checklist would be a good time, an opportune time to run the after start checklist while we think about where we're going to go.
Off and off. Battery switch. Plane battery. Generators and inverters. Checked and on. Emergency lights.
So while they're working, let's talk through where we're at.
Ground power. Removed.
We are here just off of Alpha. We'll taxi Alpha Charlie. And Charlie all the way, cross whatever these runways are. I'll have to look and see what those runways are. We will taxi to runway 33 left via Alpha. Charlie, cross 22 right, cross 22 left. Cross, hold, and they'd probably tell us to hold short 27, because I think they're landing 27. So you'd probably get a hold short at 27, and then they'd clear you to cross the rest of the way to 33 left. That's what I would expect. But again, we're not on VATSIM. Based on how the last flight went, we're going to keep it offline and just see if we can nail this one. The last thing to do before we get rolling, let's put in our frequencies and our and what radials we need to track. So our navigation, we're going to be departing Boston. Boston VOR is going to be 112.7. We're going to be departing on the 251 radial. We're going to be heading out to Putnam, which is creatively PUT at 117.4. And we're going to track that outbound 239er. We're going to take that into Madison, MAD, on 110.4, and outbound from that's going to be 205. I'm across Long Island Sound out to Calverton. That's Charlie, Charlie, Charlie. 117.2. And from there, we're going to track 262 outbound to some John F. Kennedy International Airport, 115.9. And I'm just writing this down on a piece of paper, so I have it in front of me always. And that was 262 inbound to JFK. All right. So I believe we are ready to go. We've run after start checklist. And once we get down to down through these runways, we will go to the before takeoff checklist. So let's give it a little bit of power. And again, we're going to make a... We're going to have to kind of come around to the left. So we may have to step on it. We'll take parking brake off and just really kind of pivot to give ourselves a good chance to get out. We're basically out here on Alpha. We're going to taxi on down. Again, Charlie, cross the 22s, and then hold short 27. Because in the real virtual world, Boston's landing 27, so they'd probably hold us short there. So thanks for coming along. We're heading out from Boston International, KBOS, flying some United mainliner ops in our trusty DC-6B. So that should be Charlie here, and then just Charlie all the way across. So we'll keep the speed in. Now, we did have some issues coming down. I had one good flight and one bad flight today in the DC-6. So we're hoping this one's a good one, and we look like we know what we're doing and have flown this before. But no guarantees. We will see once we get up into the air. Oil temperatures are looking good now. Oil pressure, oil temperature is all where it, in theory, should be at the moment. But it is a good check. Let's do an scan of the instruments. The big thing, all these engine indicators, we want things pointing the same direction. If something's pointing a different direction than everything else, it's probably wrong. I see only 2 needles, which means we'll probably have all 4 engines still. And we're really running quickly here too. So Charlie we'll basically have a slight right-hand turn before we hit 27, and we will go ahead and have our make-believe Boston Tower give us clearance to cross 27 here. So the right-hand turn here, we'll just bring the speed down just a smidge. Clear across 27, United. Well, what are we today? I think 220, we'll say. And now we're going to come over here to 33 left. So before takeoff checklist. Now again, as the pilot, we just need to figure out which direction we're going to fly. We're going to fly runway heading, essentially, until we can intercept the 239. We'll fly runway heading till established, then intercept the 251 radial outbound from Boston on 112.7. So 112.
Flaps 20.
112.7. And while Tower might not like it if you tell him you need more time, if you need more time, you need more time. 112.7.
Windows and turbine.
And then Putnam's going to be 117.4. 117.4.
Closed and on. Controls.
And so we can dial in 1174 here.
East. 3. Detonator.
And then the next one is going to be Madison 110.4.
Mixture and cowl flaps.
Last thing, important not to forget, let's set our radio. We're going to be again tracking 251. So 251.
On.
That's 24.
Lines.
And then 24 and just a smidge. Alright, so they're going to finish up our
Standard and on.
checklists.
Before takeoff checks complete.
Before takeoff checks are complete, it looks like we still have all engines. And we can go ahead and look at the stress visualizer. Pressure is low because we're not doing anything right now, but everything else is in the green. So let's bring power up and taxi on out onto the runway. We're at 85,000 pounds today, much lighter than last time. So 85,000 pounds should be a dry takeoff. Okay, so here we are. We are lined up. And takeoff dry.
30 inches stabilized.
I know, holding on the brakes.
Stabilize.
My job is simple. I'm going to point the airplane that way. We're going to rotate around 100 knots. We're going to climb on out. If we don't climb out for whatever reason, our options are
Stabilize.
not optimal.
Cowl flaps.
There's a field kind of out in front of us that we might go to.
Full power, please. Going full power.
And so full power dry takeoff should be around 50 something. And then just for our health, if anything goes wrong, climb power is going to be 2400 RPM, 40 inches manifold pressure.
Full power set.
All right, here we go. Brakes released. We've got good ones and bad ones. Airspeed's alive. Airspeed's alive. We're passing 80 knots. Here's 100 knots. And just kind of start thinking about ever so slightly, gently pulling back on the stick. We are away. We seem to have good power, good climb.
Gear selected up.
Still have 4 engines.
Lights out. Pipes up. Flaps going up.
As we climb out of Boston here. So again, we want to let the speed come up to about 165 knots.
2600 RPM.
Once we hit 165 knots, we can start to pull back a little bit and just help it keep coming up, and we'll trim to just help keep our climb speed around that 165, 170 range. So we'll keep that going. We're making good power now. This is feeling much better. Hey, we might pretend like we know what we're doing. So that's 1,000 feet now. It does not climb out quickly. And that should be climb power, climb configuration. So I'm going to begin our left-hand turn. So far, so good.
After takeoff checklist, please.
Over a fairly snowy Boston.
Checks complete.
And we're climbing out. So, thanks for coming along. This is totally the one you should watch. Don't watch the takeoff we did earlier. Watch this one. Climbing through 2,000 feet now. Now, I think we'll shoot for around 13, well, that's an unlucky number. Maybe 14,000, 15,000 feet. We'll say 14,000. Once we get up there. Which puts us basically descending as we get onto Long Island. Climbing out now, and again, I'm chasing both of these radials. And they're not. Well, what's that pointing at? They're not really agreeing with me. So Boston 112.7, and then Putnam's going to be 117.4. And 251 outbound. So far so good. This is much better. Good, Clayton. Do as I don't do, definitely. Is safe in this situation. So we'll dial this in for a decent climb. We'll just kind of maintain what we're doing. That's 4,000 feet there. Now what happened in the last one, I believe we lost the engine at some point taxiing out. Noticed it about ready to take off, refired the engine, and then put max power on it, which didn't end well. It did not like that, so it ran really hot for a while, and it had actually more power than the others, and then it started dropping, and we just shut it down. So the one thing concerning me, my VORs aren't agreeing. They're not pointing in the same direction, which in theory they should. 117.4 and 112.7. 251. That's 251. So let's make sure we have something there. And we'll just go over to Putnam, 117.4 as our ground truth. And we'll begin a left-hand turn to intercept that VOR. So we bump Putnam up. Let's bump Madison up. And after Madison, it's going to be Calverton, 117.2. We'll just have that ready to go. And then all I'm doing here is just trying to put a 45 between me and that, and the needle. And even, yeah, we may not even have to do that. VR is starting to come in, so we might start leveling off even a little bit earlier. So that will do just fine. We'll level it off here. Fly inbound a little bit. We're now climbing through 7,000 feet. We are losing a little bit of power, so we may have to bring our climb rate down a little, or we're losing a little speed. We're a little slow, so we may bring our climb rate down a bit and pick up some more of our speed. I don't want to get behind the power curve here. And that the VOR is coming in pretty nicely. We'll go ahead and let the airplane figure it out from here. All right, well, thanks for coming along. If you all are just joining us, we have just departed Boston, KBOS, doing a short milk run out to New York, JFK International Airport. And one of the things we were talking about earlier, there's a difference in roles the DC-6 kind of plays in the United fleet from kind of early, its first adoption in the late 40s and early 50s to the end of its life. It almost switches roles. whereas in the very beginning, this is probably their transcontinental long-haul workhorse. And by the 60s and 70s, it's not doing that anymore. It's doing a lot more trips like this, Boston to JFK, things that almost scream regional. Their last route they operated was San Francisco to Salt Lake City with a couple of stops in between. Again, because people are opting to fly on the jets, so it's harder to fill seats in the Propliners. So they tend to fly shorter routes at that time because you just can't make as much money on flying a DC-6, which is going to take 10 hours to fly cross-country, compared with a jet, which will take 5, even back then, 5 or 6. All right, and I do not have that here, so let's just get this back in. 29 miles to the Putnam VOR. Commander Dempster says, how is the prop effects now from Sim Update 8? Now, I don't believe that in this airplane, the props are modeled using the built-in Asobo propeller technology. I don't know what they use. I don't know if they actually, in a PMDG sense, model each prop individually or not. That's a good question. That's a good question for them. It just kind of... Yeah, I'm not sure about the fidelity of their prop simulation. Because I know we do feather, and you do feel the feathering effects here on this airplane a bit. It's always felt very good, even with engines out. But yeah, I don't know. It doesn't use the new prop effects, which again, you do notice them more than I think I thought. When I was sitting down to make that video, to be honest, I would kind of thought it would be hard to tell. Hard to see a huge difference. Because in theory, the models should match up kind of similarly. There should be small differences around the edges where the actual complex phenomena are interacting. But I mean, broadly speaking, you're accounting for all the things kind of separately. So I was surprised by how different it felt. I thought it felt pretty good, though. I enjoyed it. Snip says only some aircraft have been updated. Twin Otter might have been updated. I haven't seen that. Again, that might be true. Twin Otter, and again, this is a detailed sim airplane. PMDG has their own flight model that they build. They're not using the built-in Asobo stuff for the most part. I think they have a much more custom flight model from the base up, so I would imagine they simulate those effects somehow. I don't know if they do it on the same level of each individual propeller body, but I don't know, because again, it's more of a jet house, so you could convince me either way. Let's see. But I mean, and I know they definitely, in this airplane, yeah, we're still going up, they definitely model drag of the propellers for feathering, because that's a pretty big part of this. That's something that I believe wasn't physically implemented in the Twin Otter, but I might be wrong about that, and that may have been updated. All right, so we're climbing out now through 12,000 feet. We are about 20 miles from the Putnam VOR. At Putnam, we're going to make a left-hand turn, fly outbound radial 239 down to Madison. On the north side of Long Island Sound, we'll cross Long Island Sound and bring it on downhill to Calverton. So thanks for coming along tonight on our weeknight flight. We're flying the DC-6 in retro 60s United colors. And this flight's going much more smoothly than the last. So if you want to see a real bad show, when this bit's posted, you can watch the beginning of it. And it is interesting, though. I mean, DC-6 malfunctions happen more frequently than in any other airplane, I think. And it does, you just have to be ready for it. So that's 13,000. We'll go up to 14,000 now. We can start thinking about, might be an opportune time to start thinking about going into New York. So New York, KJFK. And let's get JFK back up here. JFK, we got the text error, and we're looking for the approach. We're going to go 31 left, and we'll fly the ILS for 31 left. ILS for 31 left, John F. Kennedy International Airport. So essentially, we can come. We could go to Deer Park, which is. Deer Park is somewhere here, DPK, which doesn't take, we're basically doing that. So if we throw DPK in here, fly Deer Park, and then from Deer Park, we'll basically fly outbound 228. So Deer Park, DPK, and I'm missing 14,000 feet. So let's, we'll level off and go into cruise. Oops, nope. Nope. We'll level off and go into cruise. Well, I blocked the view. So leveling off into cruise, 14,000 feet. And it's still pushing us up just a smidge, so let's really push it down here. And here is... And we'll hit the button. 1,400 feet. All right. So let's get, we'll let the engines run. We'll ask them to go to descent, or to cruise in a second. But let's figure out our flight plan from here. So Deer Park. We're going to go out to Deer Park, and then... It's gotten a little off. Deer Park, and then out to tracking 228 outbound. So Deer Park is on 117.7. We'll track 228 until basically we intercept the localizer on 111.35. So we'll go Calverton just straight to Deer Park. And SkyVector is going to tell me that Calverton to Deer Park is going to be 263. Not 262. Alright, so we are now 7 miles from Putnam. We can ask our esteemed colleagues to run the cruise checklist. And so let's figure out where we need to descend. 5 nautical miles per 1,000 feet. So is our rule of thumb. And we're at 14,000 feet. We need to be at 3,000 feet for the ILS. No, we need to be at 2,000 feet. 2,000 feet at 11 miles or 12 miles. So 2,000 feet minus, or 14,000 feet minus 2,000 feet is equal to 12,000 feet. And 12 times 5 is 35. Oh, no. What is 12 times 5? 60? So we need 60 miles away? Am I making that up? So 60 miles out, which is going to be, again, it's really going to be coming downhill over Long Island Sound. So once we pass Madison, we'll start coming downhill for our approach into JFK. Yeah, I haven't, there's nothing too groundbreaking. They have revamped the tablet a little bit and messed with that. But yeah, it came out pretty well finished. There's not a ton of bells and whistles being added on. But just the EFB. And again, your standard bug fixes. I'll stand on the left rudder. Alright, so we're cruising 14,000 feet. Looks like we have all 4 engines, so that's always nice. Am I killing the engines? Let's see. Hey, it's all green. I like that. So we will keep it on heading out to Boston, and now we have passed our VOR, so we'll go into gyropilot mode and update our heading. We need to track 239, so 239. So we'll go to 24, and then just a smidge, and make a left-hand turn here. So we'll give it a nice, decent left-hand turn. And really point ourselves at it. Localizer is coming in, so we'll let the airplane do it and give a little bit of a... There is a definite art to getting it to so that you're not... to get it smoothly is definitely an art. It is an art form that I have not perfected. Or even gotten particularly close. So Putnam outbound, and then Madison's going to be on 110.4. So 110.4 for Madison. And once we're kind of established here, we can go ahead and do it. 54 miles to Madison. And really, we'll treat Madison as our top of descent. So we really need 60 miles. Well, we may have to descend a little bit before Madison, because we need 60 miles plus 20 miles, so 80 miles, which puts us really about 30 miles from Putnam or 20 miles from Madison. So far, so good. We might even get the seatbelt signed off. Where's seatbelts? It's way back here, isn't it? Oh, no, this is the DC-6. We'll leave smoothly. They can smoke. Seatbelts are off. Okay. Alright, so we're cruising in to JFK. Again, we're going to shoot the ILS. It will be, in truth, mostly a visual approach. But we will shoot the ILS. And it is a pretty good day for some flying here. Nice visibility. Good fun stuff. That is the other thing they added to the DC-6. It's not a huge thing, but there are a few more PMDG liveries that came out. So this one's one that I think is newer. So they did add a bunch of those. And of course, you obviously have FlightSim.to for all of your other needs. So riding along in the DC-6. Cruising over what I believe is still Massachusetts. Although, no, I take that back. We are into Connecticut. So if you're wondering where Connecticut is, this is it. So again, heading down to Madison, left-hand turn at Madison. We'll track 205 outbound. And then come back right once we get to Calverton. And at that point, we'll be shooting the ILS approach. So thanks for coming along, everybody, on this VFR weeknight flight in the DC-6. Again, it's just a plane that I need to fly more often to be better at, and it's just sometimes you get into it and weird stuff happens. But it is a good plane, and it's a lot of fun to fly. It's very fun to get right. So, and it's got a good feel about it. I do enjoy it. But certainly not an expert, and would not present myself as such. Making pretty good speed. We got, what, 210 indicated? 205 indicated. And we can now go, we'll go over to Madison now, 32 miles. And the last thing we can do is also just go, we'll go to our gyro pilot and just change over all of our frequencies. So next up's going to be Calverton 117.2, which is in there, and then Deer Park, which is 117.7. So we're ready to go there. Now, like I was saying, we're going to be basically start coming downhill soon. We're at 14,000 feet now, 5 nautical miles per 1,000 feet. We need about 60 miles to drop 12,000 feet. Again, that'll put us pretty low pretty early, so we may ratchet it back just a little bit. But the yeah, the ILS-2 Kennedy floor at the initial approach fixes 2,000 feet. So. And I should say that that's at Zach's, 10 miles out. So Deer Park, we can be a little higher. And let's just turn that back over. So again, once we're in 20 miles to Madison, we will start thinking about coming downhill. That's about 80 miles from our destination. And then we'll basically making our final approach over Long Island. Some more fun stuff going on. I did pick up the new Beechcraft Stagger Wing, which is another plane I want to fly more. It is kind of like, it's almost a little like mini DC-6, just not complex. But it does have kind of a similar, maybe not a similar, but yeah, a similar aesthetic, similar vibe. The height of propeller aviation. But it's good fun, and it's I think it just feels good to fly. It sounds good. I'm enjoying it. Again, no autopilot or anything like that, but definitely I think some cross-country flying, cruising might be in our future. So that's a cool one. That's fun. Obviously, 737. We're eagerly awaiting the news there, and yeah, it should be a fun time coming up. We got plenty of planes to fly. I think plenty of planes to be excited about. Now, Snip says you can get DC-6 plane profile for a little nav map. It helps plan the climb and descent rate and shows your top of climb and top of descent. Good reference points. That would be a very helpful thing to have. Little nav map. I have used it. I hacked my own DC-6 profile and it wasn't quite right. And it got us close, especially when we're doing a lot of DC-6 flying. But yeah, that would be something. Definitely, if you're using little nav map, you have the DC-6. Those profiles. That plane profile really helps. Yeah, and I won't spoil anything for that. That plane might... I'm just... I gotta figure out where to fly it, I think is the key for the Stagger Wing. I don't know what an iconic cruise would be for that kind of plane. Maybe California coast. Maybe. New York would be another one. You could fly the visual routes around New York City. Could be fun too. I'm not sure. So that'll take some more playing around with. But I was surprised. I was looking at that. I saw when that was announced. I was like, that looks cool. And I picked it up and I was surprised how much I liked it. Just because it's unique, and it's, I mean, especially when simple planes are kind of unique, they have their unique stuff, that really sells it to me. I've talked a lot about how I like those unique aspects of every plane. And I think it doesn't have just one. Alright, so we've missed our top of descent because I'm sitting here talking, but we'll go ahead and do that. We can start coming downhill. And again, we're going to aim for between 500 and 1,000 feet per minute. It doesn't have to be exact, and we can kind of adjust it based on where we are. And then once we're heading downhill a little bit, we'll have the guys run the descent checks. So coming up on Long Island Sound now, a little bit of cloud cover. Let's do a check-in at let's check in with JFK weather. Has it changed greatly? Altimeter 3035, -2 Cs, wind 320 at 22 knots. So that doesn't change anything. We're still going to plan on 31 left. And yeah, 305 inches of mercury, 1028 for your hectopascal fans. A few clouds at 25,000 feet. So we may get out of this little cloud layer. I'm not sure. That's what the METAR is saying at JFK. Alright, so we're a little fast now. We can go ahead and run descent checks.
Setting 26 inches. Set. Descent checklist, please. Altimeters and flight instruments cross-checked. Seatbelt signs on. On. Engine blowers low. Low. Descent checks are complete.
Alright, so those are descent checks complete. We're going to keep it on, coming on downhill. Descending now through about 11,700 and 6.3 miles from our VOR. Now our next we are in gyropilot mode, so our next leg is 205 outbound from Madison, so 21, and we'll go to 205. And we will be ready to turn basically left, and we'll kind of split the, we'll be aiming for the bigger arrow. We'll kind of split the difference. 4 miles now. At 3 miles, we'll probably start a gentle turn, and then let's try and do this somewhat smoothly. So we're starting to enter, see Madison starting to go around at 3 miles. So let's just start thinking about turning. And that's probably good, and then we'll just fly this until it comes in. So flying over Long Island Sound now, crossing 10,000 feet. So we can probably come a little less aggressively. Just a smidge. I mean, at 20 miles, so the rule of thumb, 20 miles to slow down. If we're at, so if we're basically at, we'll say around 3,000 feet at Deer Park, we're doing pretty well. So we will just try and engineer the situation so that we make that happen. And we're not very aggressively tackling the VOR, so it should... We may even give it just a nudge. Just a nudge to the right. Help that VOR come in a little bit. And now we got life. So with life, we can go ahead and... let the plane figure out how to do it. And we're coming around 8,000 feet, so... I kind of want to keep it above 5,000 feet until we hit... until we hit Calverton at least. Because we don't need to be screaming up Long Island at 2,000 feet the whole time. Just for a little bit of it. Right, so we are getting ready to fly over Long Island on approach to JFK, John F. Kennedy International Airport in the Big Apple, New York, New York. Flying our trusty DC-6, trying to put some hours in the DC-6, knock some rust off. I'm not going to say anything till we're on the ground, but the first flight was a bit of a snafu. Second flight has been, so far, going a lot better. Still have 4 engines. We are still descending. And the next thing that we can do, we're going to go back to gyropilot mode. This is not a long leg, so we'll go over to Madison, or Calverton, which is going to be 117.2. And Calverton will just be a little different, but it's... it is all right. And then Deer Park's 117.7, and then at that point we're starting to think about the localizer, which is 11135. So it's about 6,000 feet again. I'm going to bring it, I'm just going to arrest our descent a bit. Just slow it down as we climb over Long Island. I'll set a floor of 5,000 feet for us for now. And then we'll descend further as we can. So basically, once we hit Deer Park, we can run in-range checks. And once we're turning on it, once we've got the ILS, once we've got the runway in sight, we'll run before landing. Other than that, and that's one of the fun things about the DC-6, it's my job to put the airplane in the right spot. More than anything else. We're still coming downhill at about 5,000 feet per minute, so let's, 4 miles from Calverton now. Our next radial is 263, so we are in gyropilot mode, so changing this around isn't going to hurt anything. And we're going to go to 2.6 and a little bit. And again, once we're kind of over it, we'll point ourselves at Deer Park. So we're at 2 miles now. We will begin our turn. Or Deer Park, 5,400 feet. We're now passing Calverton. Deer Park, we could say 4,000 at Deer Park. And then at Deer Park, we're tracking 228 outbound to intercept the localizer. So that's pretty good. Can level it out. And point ourselves at Deer Park. We're a little to the right of the localizer, or a little to the right of the radial. But it should come in a little bit. And that's 5,000 feet. We can now... We're still in gyropilot mode, so that's fine. Let's go ahead and go over to Deer Park and get the ILS on deck 11135. Oh, and we need so Deer Park is 117.7. And then just for curiosity, we can put in JFK, which is 115.9. And that just tells us how far we are raw from the airport if we go over here. Say I'm 42 miles from John F. Kennedy Airport. So we're going to level at 4,000 feet and just start slowing down there, and then we'll have to descend again to 2,000. As we go to intercept the localizer, but we will get there when we get there. So thanks for coming along, everyone, on our DC-6 flight. Again, it's been fun. Over at Long Island now. We did a trip out from Long Island to Boston. Boston back to Long Island. First flight was a bit of a mess. Second flight has gone pretty well. So, we like to see that. I do have weird issues with the DC-6 sometimes. And a couple of the times it's been controls. Once I had my mixture bound to an axis and that was throwing everything off. So I couldn't climb out and had no power because I kept shutting off the mixture to the fuel. So stuff like that seems to happen to me in the DC-6. So it's a plane that you gotta know kind of how to troubleshoot a little bit. Once it's in its zone, it's fun. Good fun. Alright, that's 4,000 feet. We are 15.1 miles from Deer Park. So we'll go level at 4,000. We'll say that New York is controlling us over. I believe this is a controlled field. We're flying over Long Island, MacArthur. Or technically, you know, we would request clearance through the Charlie here. Or climb another 100 feet because it's surfaced to 4,100. So flying into Deer Park. And then again, Deer Park outbound 228. So we're not actually using this right now. We're just flying straight at the Deer Park VOR. So 228. If we go to 21, 22, 22.8 or 228. So that is 10 miles. Speed is coming down a good bit. And again, one more brush up on what we're going to do. We're coming out to Deer Park, which is up in the upper right-hand corner of the plate. We're going to fly that out. It's basically going to take us straight to the localizer. We're going to make a right-hand turn and intercept it. Plane's yelling at me for some reason. But our engine's still... Oil pressure's low. We don't have a lot of power in right now. So that is the only questionable thing. We are just a smidge off to the left, so let's make a right-hand turn. 8 miles now to Deer Park. And I'm going to go ahead and resume the descent to 3,000 feet. And then once we get past Deer Park, we'll just go down to 2,000. And again, at Deer Park, we're going to hit in-range checks. And then as we're going on to final, we'll run before before landing. So that's pretty good. That'll do just fine. 6.8 miles to go. And we're coming down now, 3,600 feet. Altimeter, what did I say? 3035. This would also help to have that dialed in. And final wind check at Kennedy is... We are still looking 320 at 22 knots. And we're coming in on 3-1 left, so it should be a good stiff headwind. Four miles now. Oops, I'm tracking the wrong one. So brain fart here, I'm tracking the big needle. I need to be tracking the small needle. Big needle's taking me straight to JFK. So we'll make a right-hand turn out to that, and then turn back left and come on into land. So here we are over Long Island. We're now crossing 3,400 feet. We'll point ourselves at the VOR station. We're already kind of getting into zone of confusion territory, so not too worried about it. And then at that point, we're going to basically go outbound, heading 220. So we're crossing overhead the VOR station now. You can see it start to spin. So we'll start our left-hand turn, 220. And there goes the VOR. So, that's why I'm not an instrument pilot. And that's 3,000 feet, so we'll go ahead and run in-range checklist. Things are going to happen a little faster now. We'll go down to 2,000 feet until we're established on the localizer. And again, we're making a left-hand turn to 220. We'll overshoot just a smidge.
Fuel tank selectors. Mains on, crossfeed off. Hydraulic bypass valve. Down.
And then just to check on our airport, we're 21 miles from the airport.
On. In-range checks complete.
So we will chase that. We'll chase that radial just a smidge. Here it comes, and we're gonna do a little bucking bronco here, but that's all right. 220. Here it comes. And there we go. All right. I'm just going to keep it in gyro pilot mode. We're going to do it the old-fashioned way. Well, the semi-old-fashioned way. We're going to do it maybe the manual way is the better way to put it. Because I'm going to throw the localizer in now. And we're going to try and pick that up next. Localizer 11135. Let's double check that. 11135. And I'm getting 19 miles from the localizer. So again, we should intercept it about at 15 miles and 2,000 feet. So once we're down at 2,000 feet, we will slow on down and be ready to descend. And then we're going to intercept that at how far? So yeah, that shows 19.5 from the airport. All right, and let's go ahead and call it there and slow this thing down. Now JFK, just to orient ourselves, it should be off to our right in about 17 miles. So we're going to make a right-hand turn. And looks like we've got glide slope on the localizer, which is a handy thing. We're going to kind of expect, if we flew this right, we'd expect to hit it, to intercept the glide slope around 11, 12 miles from JFK. We're at 16 now. I'm assuming we've kind of over or undershot it a little bit, so we'll say 12 plus or minus 2 will get us in range. And again, JFK is just up that way. So buckle up, we are heading in to JFK. And Corey Evans asked, what is the pop-up tablet you are using? Corey, in here, this is the EFB for PMDG. If we're looking at the internet, it's just a Streamlabs amalgamation of things. A couple different scenes and pictures. But DC-6 comes with the tablet here for all the flight engineer stuff. That's 14 miles. We're about to a right-hander here. We're going to go ahead and try and intercept the localizer. And we are a little high even. We've gained a little bit of altitude, which is suboptimal. So let's bring that down. Again, we don't want to go too far over because we're still just a little bit to the left of the airport. So we're not quite intercepted. Sorry, people in the back. And we'll just keep it coming. We want to keep it mostly level at this point. And we're just going to follow the glide slope in at this point. So again, just reducing that to about 30 degrees or so is a good amount to intercept. That way the needles don't come in super fast that you can't catch them, but it's a little more manageable. So we're now off the coast. We're at 2,500 or so feet. JFK should be off our nose somewhere out there in about 11.5 miles. So glide slope is just starting to come in. And there's the field. So we got the field in sight. We can go ahead and run before landing checklist.
Setting flaps 20. 20 flaps set. Mixtures rich, please. Auto rich.
So it looks like we turned a little early. So for flying VATSIM, you'd want to stick a lot more rigidly to that 228 all the way out and then turn right. And again, we're on 3-3, we're on 3-1 left, so we would want to air to the left if we did overshoot. Which we may yet.
Gear down and locked. 3 greens. Props. 2400 RPM. 2400 RPM set. Cal flaps. Plus 3 degrees. Cal flaps set. ADI. ADI off.
Alright, so I got the runway visually.
Landing lights. Speed good. Extending lights.
We're going to make a right-hand turn.
Lights extended and on.
And then
Calm it cold. Set cold.
keep it coming on downhill. So 3-3 left. We're going after the left runway. That's all good. Picture's looking pretty good. I got to get the lineup right, but we will see about that. Bring it in just a little bit. Again, glide slope vertically, we're looking good. We're a little below the glide slope, but we're doing all right. We're in flaps. They should have left me in flaps 20, which I believe they did. So let's level out and just take stock a little bit here. All right, so the needle's starting to come in, and we've got the runway too. So we'll let it come out just a smidge before we turn left to intercept. All right, so buckle up. We are coming into land here at Kennedy International Airport. It hopefully will be less dramatic than coming into Boston. So thanks for coming along on this VFR DC-6 flight. We've got 3 green on the gear. We are down to flaps 20. We could even, if we wanted to, if we so desired, go flaps 30 or something crazy like that. I'm going to go ahead and take control and get us down to the ground. Gear down. We are looking good. We're a little to the left. Let's just trim it out so that we're feeling good. And make it on downhill. And we're a little above the glide slope, so we'll give it another notch of flaps. We should be in flaps 40 if I'm counting right. And we can even go down flaps 50, and I'm just going to take control of the power formally and go to 100 BMEP. So we're at 120 now. I see some combination of white and red, which is encouraging. We're still a little to the left, so let's give it some right. Right elevator, just ride that a little bit in. Alright, we're looking pretty good here now. Are we in flaps? Looks like we're flaps 50. So far so good. Coming on downhill, we are coming into land runway 31 left here at John F. Kennedy Airport. Again, we came out of Boston. Let's not lose too much speed, and let's not get too far behind the glide slope. We are still just a little off to the left as New York City loads in the background. We're just a smidge below the glide slope, but overall not bad. I am feeling we're descending a little more rapidly than I'd like. We are off to the left a little bit more than I'd like. Or we're off to the right a little bit more than I'd like. So we're going to bring the flaps up a little bit. Fix our line up. And just, I'm going to get up a little bit and see what I can see. All in all, this is pretty good. We'll go back flaps. This should be flaps 40. Just bring it on in. All right. So once we're over the threshold, we'll cut power. We are now high, so let's give it flaps 50. That's full flaps. As we come on into land here in New York. You can see New York City in the background, if you're interested in such things. And now we do have reversers. It's the water rudder bind, so it's a little different than the CRJ or the King Air, which just use decreased thrust. And we're getting slow now, slow and high, which we can fix with a bit of nose down. That'll help us catch up. And again, we're just getting a little slow on on final here. And we don't want the bottom to drop out if we can help it. So flaps 50, fully configured, 3 green, 1 white, 3 reds. I've seen worse today. That's the threshold just about now. We'll start bringing the power back. And start the flare. All right, welcome back to New York, New York. See, so nice, they named it twice. We are here. We're going to go off on this taxiway, whatever this is, and figure out how we're going to get back to a gate somewhere. So let's taxi on out to... Is this going to be spitting me off on a high speed? It is, but that's all right. So welcome to New York City. That was a landing rate of 171 feet per minute. Not bad. We got 91 on the first one, but that wasn't something to brag about. We're going to taxi here onto... we pull it up. So we're here. We're going to taxi out onto Mike Bravo. We'll take Bravo into the gates at... we'll take it back to the gates where we started out. Alright, so after landing checks... Nice boring landing. That's right. It was. It felt much better. It's night and day. When this plane is in its... When you flying the plane right, it feels really good and it's fun to fly. It's challenging. You can get out of that zone easily, but when you are out of the operating envelope for whatever reason, whether it's a... And even if it's a, you know, a sim issue, a hardware issue, or it's just your inability to pilot the thing, it's night and day, but it is a fun plane to get right. So I'm glad we ended on this note and not the other way around, because that would be kind of discouraging. But yeah, definitely a plane. It's one of those I got to spend more time in to be real better at. But the other thing is I'm just not... I don't really care if I'm good at it or not anymore. I don't have time. I mean, it's there's a finite number of hours in the day, lots of planes to fly. But I do love the DC-6, and it is a fun plane to fly. So my goal, my resolution is not to put too much pressure on my flying of it. So thanks for all y'all for coming along. It's been a good, fun flight today. A nice, boring flight back to Boston. Robbie, thank you. I appreciate the support. It was a pretty decent landing. The wheel sounds always make me... It sounds worse than it is, too, in the DC-6. It always sounds like you do a big bunny hop. But if you watch the replay, it's not so bad. Alright, so this is golf. Let's see where I am at. We've overshot a little bit. We'll go to golf and just taxi on in. I think we'll pull up to one of the remote spots out here. That'll work best. Alright, we'll go ahead and put it here. And after...
Parking brake is set. Cut engines.
Alright, so shut it down. Nice boring landing on the second one. So good fun DC-6 stuff. I expect to do some more of this stuff. It was a fun plane to fly live, I actually thought. Much more than I thought it would. It's sometimes hard to fly if you're making pre-recorded stuff with it. Because weird stuff happens. But it was good fun. And, yeah, enjoyed the flight. So, thank you, everybody, for coming along tonight here on our adventures in our trusty old friend, the DC-6. And, yeah. Look forward to seeing more of this stuff soon. I think it's an exciting time for the sim and an exciting time for the channel. So, as always, if you have any questions, comments, ideas for other episodes, drop them in the comments section below. And all the usual YouTube stuff, like, comment, subscribe. It all helps a great deal. So, thank you all for coming along and watching. This has been VFR. Take it easy, y'all.